Yo, what's going on guys? It's Memin11 here, and in this video we're going to be talking about what really happened to Zayn Malik's religious beliefs. Zayn Malik was raised Muslim, and during his One Direction years he was publicly known as a Muslim, but as he got older his relationship with religion changed, and by 2018 Zayn publicly said that he no longer considers himself a Muslim. But here's where things get interesting, because despite what you might see all over social media, Zayn did not say that he's an atheist. In fact, that he said that he still believed in God. So what actually changed? Why did Zayn stop identifying as a Muslim? What did he actually believe? And what about the racism and Islamophobia he experienced during his One Direction years? And perhaps most importantly, why are there so many videos online claiming to know exactly why Zayn left Islam? Well, today we're going to separate what Zayn actually said from what people online have claimed. Let's start with Zayn's childhood. Zayn Malik was born in Bradford, England in 1993. His father Yasser Malik is a British Pakistani, while his mother Trisha converted to Islam. Zayn was raised in a Muslim household, and Islam was generally part of his upbringing, and we know this because Zayn himself has talked about it. In a 2018 interview with British Vogue, Zayn explained that his parents educated him about Islam, that he went to a mosque, and that he studied Islam while growing up. So this simply wasn't a case of people assuming that Zayn was Muslim because of his family's background. He actually grew up learning about the religion. Then in 2010, Zayn auditioned for the X Factor UK. Although he was eliminated as a solo contestant, he was eventually put into a group with Harry Styles, Niall Horan, Liam Payne, and Louis Tomlinson, and that group became One Direction. Within a few years, Zayn had gone from a teenager in Bradford to one of the most famous young celebrities in the world, and as one of the most recognizable Muslim-born celebrities in Western pop culture. His religion became part of public conversations surrounding him. Unfortunately, that also meant Zayn experienced racism and Islamophobia during his rise to fame. One particularly well-known example happened in 2015, when comedian Bill Maher made a joke comparing Zayn to the Boston Marathon. The comment was widely criticized because it associated Zayn, a Muslim man with Pakistani heritage, with and this wasn't the only time Zayn's religion and ethnicity became targets of public discussion. So naturally, this raises an interesting question. Could experiences like these have influenced his relationship with Islam? Well, they could have, but we can't say they did. There's no reliable public statement from Zayn saying, I experienced Islamophobia and that's why I stopped being Muslim. And that's an important distinction. We can document the Islamophobia Zayn experienced, but we can't take that fact and automatically turn it into the explanation for his change in religious beliefs. Now let's get to the most important part. By 2017, Zayn described himself as not currently practicing Islam, but his clearest public explanation came in 2018 during his interview with British Vogue. Zayn was asked about his religious beliefs, and he said that he doesn't consider himself Muslim anymore. But he also made something very clear. Zayn said that he had a spiritual belief in God. He also explained that he didn't believe in hell, and that he didn't believe he needed to follow certain Islamic practices, including praying 5 times a day or eating meat prepared according to religious requirements. Instead, Zayn emphasized the importance of being a good person. And this is extremely important when trying to understand what actually happened. Zayn's own explanation indicates that his beliefs had moved away from the Islamic beliefs and practices he had been raised with, but he didn't say that he stopped believing in God. So if you see somebody saying Zayn Malik left Islam and became an atheist, that is not supported by Zayn's own statement. Atheism generally refers to a lack of belief in God, while Zayn specifically said that he believed in God. So rather than labeling him something that he hasn't publicly called himself, the most accurate description based on his own words is Zayn no longer identifies as Muslim while still saying that he believed in God, and that's what we can actually establish from his public statement. And this is where things get a little more complicated, because we can actually answer part of the question. Based on Zayn's own comments, his beliefs no longer aligned with certain Islamic teachings and practices. He didn't believe in hell, he didn't feel he needed to follow a specific Islamic practices such as praying 5 times a day, and he emphasized his personal belief that being a good person was more important than following those requirements. So now that we have some idea of where Zayn's beliefs stood, what we don't have is a definitive explanation of what caused him to reach that point. Zayn hasn't publicly told us this exact event happened and that's why I left Islam, and that's an important distinction. There's a difference between asking why did Zayn believe, what did Zayn believe, what caused Zayn's beliefs to change. The first question has a much clearer answer because Zayn himself has talked about his beliefs. The second is much harder to answer because we can't see inside someone's personal thoughts process. Maybe his beliefs changed gradually as he got older. Maybe his experience throughout his life influenced him. Maybe being exposed to different cultures and people throughout his career played some role. Maybe it was simply his own personal spiritual journey. All of those things are possible, but unless Zayn himself confirms one of them, we shouldn't present them as facts. And this is exactly why I wanted to make this video, because there has been a lot of misinformation online about Zayn's religious beliefs. Search for Zayn Malik leaving Islam on YouTube or social media and you'll find people making all kinds of claims. Some say that Zayn became an atheist, and some videos even claim to know the exact reason he supposedly left Islam. For example, I found a Hindi YouTube short discussing Zayn's religious belief that had around 2.1 million views and 100,000 likes at the time I checked. The video claims that Zayn left Islam and became an atheist. It also tells us a story about Zayn's father teaching him about Islam, Zayn supposedly not being interested in it, spending time around non-Muslim friends, and eventually ignoring his father's objections to his singing career. But here's the problem. Where is the evidence for these claims? Zayn himself has said that his parents educated him about Islam, that he went to a mosque, and that he studied Islam growing up. So I wouldn't confidently say that Zayn was simply quote-unquote not interested in Islam, and unless there's a reliable primary source showing that his father actually objected to his singing career on Islamic grounds, we shouldn't present that story as an established fact either. And most importantly, the claim that Zayn became an atheist doesn't match Zayn's own statement that he believed in God. And this is why it's important to remember, millions of views does not make a claim true. A video can get 2 million views, 10 million views, or even more, and still contain information that isn't properly supported. And I'm not saying this to attack the creator. I'm saying it because when we're discussing something as personal as someone's religion, we should separate documented information from assumptions and internet rumors. So let's put everything together. Zayn Malik was raised Muslim. He was educated about Islam, went to the mosque, and studied about religion growing up. During One Direction, he was publicly known as a Muslim and experienced racism and Islamophobia. By 2017, he experienced himself as not currently practicing Islam, and in 2018, he explicitly said that he no longer considered himself Muslim. At the same time, he said that he still believed in God and described his beliefs in spiritual and personal terms. So we can actually tell you something meaningful about what changed. Zayn's belief no longer aligned with the Islamic beliefs and practices that he had been raised with. But when it comes to the exact reason why that happened, that's where we have to be honest. We don't have enough information to say that it was because of fame. We can't say it was because of his friends, and we can't say it's because of his music career, and we can't say it's because Islamophobia caused it. Those things may be interesting possibilities to discuss, but they're not established facts. The only person who can definitely tell us that full story is Zayn himself, and unless he chooses to explain that publicly, we shouldn't invent an answer for him. So what really happened to Zayn Malik's religious beliefs? The story isn't that Zayn suddenly became an atheist because he himself said that he believed in God. What we actually know is that Zayn was raised Muslim, eventually stopped identifying as a Muslim, and developed a personal spiritual outlook that he no longer aligned with the Islamic beliefs and practices that he had grown up with. We also know that there is a lot of misinformation online about why this happened, and that's really the biggest takeaway from this video. We can talk about what Zayn has publicly told us, but we should not pretend to know things that he hasn't told us, because when it comes to someone's personal beliefs, there's a huge difference between facts, reasonable possibilities, and made-up explanations. So what do you guys think? Do you think Zayn's experiences with fame, racism, Islamophobia may have influenced his relationship with religion, or do you think his beliefs simply changed as he grew older? Let me know what you think down below in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. That way you never miss a brand new video that I do go ahead and post onto my channel. It's been me, Mammon11, and I'm out. Peace.